Hello, welcome to the Brazilian Health Nut Show. Here you will find cutting edge information provided by the best experts in the world so you can learn how to burn fat for the rest of your life. Bruno de Gama is the Brazilian health nut in a mission to solve the problems you have when trying to lose weight forever. He is a nutritional therapy practitioner, a certified personal trainer, and a holistic lifestyle coach by the Czech Institute. Don't forget to say hello and sign up to our free newsletter at www.brazilianhealthnut.com. Let's go.
All right. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Kellie. I really appreciate the opportunity. Can you tell a little bit about your story from little Kellie? And I saw that you also survived a heart attack. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, the short answer, so that I don't take up too much of your listeners' time, is I've been interested in nutrition my whole life, but I chose to do some jobs that put money in the bank and not necessarily the healthiest choices. So I ran a 7-Eleven convenience store for 5 years, and then I owned McDonald's restaurants for 10 years.
Wow.
But the whole time while I was doing that, I was still studying the bionutritional aspects, biochemistry of food, and doing gourmet cooking lessons in the evening. So after many years of doing this, it really became too much of an incongruency for my staff and my family and myself. And so I went back to school. I got another degree, this time in nutrition, health, and wellness, and then went on to do some specialized training in whole foods nutrition. And that led me to walking away from the McDonald's restaurants and starting my own business, The Right Plan, where I teach people how to use whole foods in order to find their optimal health. And it's been a great platform for me, and it became an even more interesting platform, more exciting platform about 4 years ago when, yes, I had a heart attack. They gave me a stent. I had 100% blockage of my LAD, what they call the widowmaker, and they couldn't figure out why, because I was doing triathlons. I didn't have blood sugar issues. I didn't have cholesterol. I wasn't overweight. I didn't smoke. No genetic reasons. Nobody in my family had heart issues. They really couldn't figure out what had caused it, and they thought it was just a fluke. Unfortunately, it wasn't, and I had another heart attack. They kept going in and cleaning out the stent, and my body didn't want the stent. So it kept trying to reject it. And so they ended up the next year having me have a heart bypass surgery. So at the age of 43, they cracked open my sternum and ribs and stopped my heart and gave me a new LAD. And 9 months after that incident, I ended up having a stroke. And so 2 years ago, I couldn't put my fingers to my thumb on my left side of my hand, and my face was all drooping. I couldn't swallow. I couldn't talk. They were feeding me with an IV. But once again, I came back. So all of that happened in about an 18-month time frame. And medical experts worldwide have worked on my case because they can't figure out how. Not only do I keep coming back, I knew that these things were going to happen. I could feel them happening in my body. I got to the hospital in plenty of time, and they kept asking, how am I surviving and more incredibly thriving? I mean, if you looked at me when I go and I speak, and I've been all over the country, the U.S., 40 different television performances. If you look at me and listen to me, you'd have no idea what I've been through. And it's all because of my healthy diet. And all of those medical experts have said the same thing. It's that healthy diet that saved my life again and again and again. So I love the opportunity to get out and talk about it with people like your listeners and you that are really beginning to understand that we have a lot of power and control about our health when we decide what we're putting into our bodies.
Right. Did you change anything at all from the time when you had this stroke and your problems with your heart, or you kept the same thing? But
Nope.
because from what you said, you're already doing a lot of pretty much everything right in terms of lifestyle, right?
Nope. The only thing that I changed is I do take an aspirin a day now. It seems to help keep my blood a little bit thinner, and so that's helpful. But other than that, no, I don't take any medications. I made no changes in my diet, my lifestyle, anything. They considered me ideal for everything. So
right. So it's still a mystery what happened.
It is actually still a mystery, which is a little bit scary. I won't lie about that. But I have learned that, there's some things I can do that seem to help improve it. So I do eat more beets than I used to. That seems to keep my blood thinner. I now have a treadmill desk. So whenever I feel like I'm getting a little sluggish, I stand up and walk for a little bit. And so all of that seems to be able to so far keep it at bay. And so whatever it is in my system that nobody seems to be able to identify, I can monitor without any pharmaceutical drugs or doing anything more than what I was doing before, with the exception of, like I said, I do take the aspirin. It seems it feels better, so I take it.
Got you. So Kellie, I went to your website and I've never seen somebody who has been to so many shows on TV. It's like, oh my God, I was like, oh, she's all over. That's so nice. So what's the message that you have been spreading through all this media?
There's many messages out there, really, but they all come back to the same principle. And the principle is whole foods nutrition. If people eat real food as close to its original form as it was grown or whatever the food is, as close as we can get to its original form, the healthier they're going to be. So whether, I'm teaching that through recipes or I'm using the platform of having been able to save my life many times by using whole foods and coming back, no matter which message I'm out there giving, it all comes back to the same thing. We have to eat whole foods.
Do you restrict anything at all in terms of, let's say, some people don't have gluten in the diet, or like grains, for example, or dairy? Those are still whole foods, but how do you handle this restriction from some diets?
Well, the thing with diets is that everybody has to find the foods that are best for them. So there is no one answer. And sometimes my clients even chide me a little bit because they say, we'll ask you a question and you always start with, it depends. And that usually is the answer, because depending on the person, if you're the type of person that wakes up in the morning, you have all the energy in the world and you're good to go all day, and you fall asleep easily at night, that's a different diet plan for somebody than the person that wakes up at the same time, but they don't really get going until like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. But they can get a second wind and they'll go till 2 in the next morning. Those are different hormonal issues in the body. And so they need different diet plans. The same thing is true if there's a person that really craves like potato chips. And so they're craving that salty, that crunchy, that kind of fatty food. That is a different type of diet than somebody who's craving something really sweet, like a brownie. And if they sit down to a plate of brownies, they're going to eat the whole plate, not just one. Those are all different diets. It's all about creating that balance and hormones within the body. So that determines what somebody needs to not necessarily remove from their diet, but restrict is probably a good word, where they're going to create balance. For some people, coffee's fine. For other people, it really does need to be restricted. So the only thing that I would say is a universal food that people should completely avoid, no matter what kind of diet they're on, is trans fats. Those hydrogenated, manufactured, fake fat, that's no good for anybody. It doesn't matter who they are, what diet plan they choose. But the reality is, everything's going to work for somebody. It just is finding the right path for them to create that balance. And that's very individual to each person.
Yeah, that's a theme that keeps coming back and back on the show. It's like about bio-individuality. So
Yes.
every person has to find out what works for them. So people are here mostly because they want to lose weight. That's the main subject here on the show. And I saw that you have a 2 weeks program about losing weight. Can you share a little bit about this program? How do you do and how does it work really?
That's one of my best-selling books, is the 2-week weight loss program. And it's all whole foods. So you're going to end up, in that case, it's a more restrictive program. It will work for almost everybody. They'll lose 7 to 10 pounds in about 10 weeks if they have it to lose. I should say that, of course.
Right.
But it is a restrictive program. So it is not a diet that somebody can do for the rest of their life, for the most part. It's really a simplistic way to lose weight if they have an event or something special that they're trying to get to. So I do want to be sure I clarify that, because normally what I teach people to do is the simple steps that they can do for the rest of their life, not something that they're going to do on a short-term basis. But I realize that a lot of people, it's the last minute, they've got whatever, a reunion or something coming up that they really want to look awesome, and they want to drop a little weight. So that's how I created the 2-week weight loss program. And it's been a bestseller because people, we all procrastinate, and it's so the nice thing is it'll get people started on whole foods. So everything in there, something that they make, they eat 6 times a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, 2 snacks, and a dessert. So there's a lot of food, but they're doing it all from their own kitchen. So they're actually cooking and making food. So it's a little bit of prep time for people, but it works really, really well, and it's going to get them off of those processed foods.
My question is, so it's a 2 weeks program. However, do they get like a transition later on after these 2 weeks? Because there is a lot of programs in the internet, and people can buy like, it's really, let's lose weight in 2 weeks or 10 days, all right? But then what happens later on? That's my main question for all those programs.
Yeah.
Do you have something like that?
This is definitely just a 2-week program. This is not a lifestyle change. I don't even pretend that it's going to do that. It's going to help somebody just quickly drop excess fat in a very healthy way. So there's no pills, there's no boxes, there's nothing else to buy. It's groceries. They go to their own grocery store and they make. So I have talked to a lot of people that have cheated the program a little bit. So like I teach in there how to make hummus, a red pepper hummus, actually, which is a fabulous, wonderful snack food. But then people tell me, they cheated. They don't want to make it themselves. So they buy from a grocery store, and, it may or may not be as successful for them. But the principles of it can be used continuously. So they can take that information and the recipes and continue using it for as long as they'd like. Realistically, most people, it's too much work, because you're cooking, and most people are not used to cooking enough food to eat, out of their own home, their own lunchbox or whatever, 6 times a day. So it's not necessarily feasible to continue as a lifestyle with that restrictive of a diet.
Gotcha.
But it's not. It could be done. It wouldn't necessarily be the best solution. If somebody's really trying to get healthy and they're not looking to finish, to get into like an outfit in 2 weeks for a special occasion, then they need to look more at a lifestyle change, something that they can make baby steps, little changes over a longer period of time that just become part of their everyday life, rather than something that's dramatic and just a short-term fix. And that program is designed to just be a short-term fix.
Cool. Got you. Hey guys, what's up? Bruno Gama here, Brazilian Health Nut, and let's take a little break from the show because I would like to offer you something. If you go to my website, www.brazilianhealthnut.com, and click on the page Burn Fat Forever, you can go ahead and claim your free consultation with me right now, okay? Or you can just send me an email at brazilianhealthnut@gmail.com. So you can start to lose weight and feel healthier right now, okay? So go ahead and claim your free consultation with me, and remember that spots are limited, okay? Now let's get back to the show. I have something that when I'm working with clients, it's something related to metabolic typing. And so I'm trying to figure it out if the person is more towards vegetarians, if they're more towards animal-based food, or if they are kind of like a variable, right?
Right.
And I saw that you also have something similar on your website. So you have this body type solution program, right? Do you how does that compare to metabolic typing diet?
So over the years, I've used a variety of the different typings, if you will. So, there's blood typing, there's metabolic typing, there's paleo and vegetarian, raw foods. You can kind of pick all these different things. And over the years, as I've worked with clients, I've found that most people fit into one of four types, if you will, and for lack of a better word. And how I base that is where they get their energy from. So like I was talking about people that wake up with a lot of energy versus people that wake up but don't really hit their stride until later in the day. Those are the two most common energy types. So we have to look at where they're getting their energy, the foods that they're craving, how their energy flows throughout the day. So it's more of a hormonal balance diet. And it's nothing specific. It's a little bit of a lot of parts of those different typings, because as I worked through and studied many of them, and I think there's value in a lot of them. They all have very good information. But the problem, like with the blood typing diet, is the fact that we've really morphed. We don't have, as people have become more of a worldwide society, and we don't have a lot of people that are only born and raised in a small indigenous area where their blood is very pure. We don't really have much of that anymore. We have a lot of homogenizing of our world, which is great, but it's not great if you're looking at those type of diets, because an O blood type isn't the same as an O blood type was even 5, 10, 15 years ago. It's all changed as we've crossbred, for lack of better word. But so over the years, I've just realized that as I work with people, I can find where these four pieces come in, and folks can usually self-identify that. They know when they have energy. They know when they have cravings. They know what kind of cravings they have. Women's may change a little bit depending on their cycle during the month, but for the most part, it's usually the same type of thing. Spicy foods, fatty foods, salty foods, sugary foods. They lean toward one above all else. And so once you start identifying that, it's really pretty easy from my perspective, I think, to identify what type of foods are going to work really well for them, because it's where their energy's coming from, and their cravings indicate what hormones are overactive in their system. And then we just balance those hormones with the foods.
Do you have a name for those four types, or how do you categorize those?
I categorize them as adrenal, thyroid, pituitary, and reproductive. And so those are the organs that they are usually stimulating the most. And so if they're a thyroid person, that's where they're getting a lot of their energy. A lot of those people are having thyroid issues. So they either are on some sort of medication for an low active thyroid. A lot of times we're seeing them get into the autoimmune diseases like Hashimoto's and things like that, because they keep using their thyroid hormones to such a high degree that their body is beginning to break down. They can't continue at the level that they keep going to that particular organ. Same thing with the adrenal glands. It's why we're seeing so much adrenal fatigue now from people, because they keep going to the adrenal gland to get that energy. and they're eating and drinking foods in order to help bring that energy level up. But the more they do that, they just keep, whacking away at their adrenals to the point where they just get exhausted and they can't keep up. So it's all about then creating balance and saying, okay, we need to pull out some of the foods that are causing your organ to be overactive, and supplement with some foods that maybe you haven't been eating as much of that are going to help create that balance and slow down. So, what if they're adrenal, then we want to start sparking the usage of the thyroid and the pituitary and the reproductive glands with the foods that they eat, and decrease the body's desire to go to the adrenal glands for energy, because we can get energy from various places. We just need to find the one that's going to create that balance.
Yeah. And are you finding out about these types through self-experimentation and feedback?
Yes. Yeah. So over the years, gosh, I don't know, however many thousands of clients, it's just, it wasn't really something I set out to identify. It just, as I worked through people and, with them, I realized I kept seeing these same patterns. And when we used the same strategies with those patterns, we always saw results. So I was like, well, okay, let's look at this and say, there seems to be 4 types. Now there's some crossover, but almost everybody has one that is their primary.
That's cool. I'm really fascinated about those things because I think it's really different. I mean, nobody talks about those things in the media, like this body types and all that kind of stuff. But one question that I get every day is, should I eat every 3 hours or should I eat 3 times a day? So does that matter? How do you handle this question? I get pretty much every day from friends and clients on all those kind of things.
Well, in my experience, it really depends on what the goals are. And that's another big thing that people have to identify. What are they trying to accomplish when they're eating and working out, and what is their big goal? And once they identify the goal, then that answers the question. So if somebody's trying to lose weight, they probably should eat a little more frequently, in 3 to 4 hours, because you need to keep that metabolism rev to keep the calories burning. But they need to eat small snacks, not meals, just enough to keep the body going. But if
quality matters too.
Yeah. So it's right. It's not a simple question. And then if they're really not interested in losing very much weight, maybe just a little, or they're maintaining, or their goal is, just to spend 2 hours gardening or running around with their kids, that's a different goal. And so they don't necessarily need to eat multiple times during the day. And in that case, it's going to do better for their insulin resistance to not eat, because they have a different goal and they're trying to do different things within the body, the hormones of the body. Same thing if somebody's trying to do, world-class weightlifting or run a triathlon or a marathon or something. That's a different goal. And so, they're going to need to eat a different diet, and they're going to need to eat at different times. And they're going to need to eat, 5 or 6 times a day, and, use a different base of proteins and carbohydrates and stuff, because it depends on the goal. So I don't think there's one answer for anybody that, the answer is the next question. Well, what are you trying to do? Then we can talk about what your answer is. But there isn't, again, it's all that bio-individuality, how the body works and what we're trying to accomplish with the body.
Yeah, it always starts with it depends.
It does.
Most questions.
Yeah, and most of my clients, they're like, okay, we know you're going to start with it depends, but that's the truth. And the thing is, I believe, and this is where I might pick on somebody else, but I believe that if you're going to somebody and their answer isn't it depends, then they're trying to fit everybody into one cookie cutter plan that isn't going to work. Unless they're only specializing in one thing, which, then that might be different. But if you're talking to an expert, a professional in the nutrition field, and they only have one way of doing something, then it's only going to be successful for a small percentage of the people, because there's no one size fits all.
Yeah, definitely. I was on your website, like I told you before, and there was something about the dangerous times to lose weight. What does that mean?
Oh, so there, depending again on which type of person you are, where you get your energy. There are danger times during the day where if we're not being mindful of what's going on in our body and our hormone balance, we can get to the point where we're so hungry that you're just going to eat anything, and it's going to be whatever food is probably the worst food for you at that point, because if you're in that craving mode, you're going to go to the foods that make you feel the best, which most of the time, unfortunately, are the foods that we're probably supposed to be restricting. And so we want to keep people out of those danger times. And a lot of times that's really dependent on them and what their body's doing. So for some people, the people that don't really get going till later in the day, their danger times are more late night snacking, because if they start revving up their adrenal glands again later in the day, like in the evening time, they're going to get enough energy that they'll keep going until the wee hours of the morning, which is not a bad thing to know about yourself. If you're want to go dancing out at the club until 3 or 4 in the morning, then this is a great thing to know about yourself, how to get that energy level. But if you're trying to get up and go to work at 6 a.m., then that's not the you want to be very cautious. That's the person that shouldn't be eating late at night. They need to cut off their eating a little earlier in the day. If you're the other person, you have all this energy in the day, during the day, there's a frequent time, usually between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where they're going to have an energy dip and they're going to get a little more tired. And that's the time where, if they're not aware of it and being cognizant of it, they're going to go to a vending machine and make a really bad choice, because they just want something at that point. And it's going to be, or they'll go get a one of those like latte coffee type things that just has, sugar and caffeine in it, because it'll give them an energy rush, which is what they're looking for. Where if they're aware of it and they know those times for themselves, they can have a little snack before they get hungry, before that energy dips, and they're going to keep their hormones on pace so that they have sustained energy without any of the cravings.
Yeah, you gotta listen to your body, guys. That's the message here. Like it reminds me of yesterday. I invite a friend over to have dinner, and my biggest meal of the day is always dinner. Like I eat a lot at dinner because it works for me. I feel good, and the next day I sleep better when I have a big dinner. However, she could not eat much. She always just has a little snack, very light things, So you have to listen to your body.
Yes,
That's the message here.
Yeah.
And I saw that you were on the media, like I told you before, and you're cooking a lot of meals there. Can you share some of your favorite meals? Not just for losing weight, but just to be healthy.
Oh my goodness, I have a ton of them.
Yes.
I think one of my favorite meals is actually super easy, and we cut up leeks and put them with some whatever type of broth you like, chicken broth or vegetable broth or whatever, and just steam them a little bit in the broth, poach them actually, just a little bit, so that they're tender, and then put some salmon on top of that and just poach it in that broth, and serve it with the broth and the leeks and the salmon. And that's one of my favorite go-to meals. It's so fast, especially if you cut the salmon up so that it cooks faster. I mean, you can have dinner on the table in 15, 20 minutes, and it's just wonderful.
Mm-hmm. What about for breakfast? Do you have a favorite one?
A favorite breakfast? Well, now see, this isn't always an interesting one, because one of my go-to breakfasts is actually a smoothie that I do with, I'm trying to think what's in it, kale and spinach, pineapple, an egg.
All real food.
All real food, yeah.
One ingredient, guys.
Yeah, and that's one of my go-tos, but it's actually not one of my favorite breakfasts. It's just a lot of times I'm running late and trying to get out the door. And so it's easy to make a smoothie, but I'm not a huge fan of them. I don't like to drink my meals, honestly. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just personal choice. So when I'm at home and I have, a little more time, I love to make a frittata with eggs and whatever vegetables we have. I just load it up with vegetables and spinach and mushrooms, onions, whatever is usually left over. I do this on the weekend and I make a big one and then I can reheat it during the week. And so I'll either make it in a big skillet, or if there's a lot of it, I'll put them in those muffin cups. And so then I can take two little mini frittatas and eat them, and it can be a snack or it can be my breakfast. And so I like to do that on the weekend when I have a little more time, and then I have basically breakfast to go, anytime I want, or snack. I could do, when you put them on those little muffins, it can be a snack too. So I really like doing that, and it uses up whatever's left over in the refrigerator before I go shopping. So that's always nice too, because it seems like there's always, one or two green onions, and somehow a few mushrooms floating around, and a handful of spinach that, you don't, it uses up everything. And I love that. And then of course I'll have some breakfast. That'll be my breakfast for the next few days, and I can go shopping again.
Yeah. Preparation is key. Always say
Yes.
that. You have a 1-day intensive course. Can you share about what you're doing there? Because I really believe on the power of coaching. I'm a coach, I'm a fat loss coach, and I really believe on this working with people and leading them. So you kind of like you shortcut, right? You teaching them how to do things that would take like, I don't know, maybe 5 years, and they can learn in 6 months, right? Can you share about this 1-day course that you have?
So the 1-day course is a private thing for people. So it's not a group. It's just really honing in everything for one person. And they usually bring meal plans that they already have, recipes that they like, and we actually work through their stuff and get meal plans made for them that are going to work. Introduce foods to them. So a lot of times it's something I normally do here in my own office in the States. And the whole back of my office is a 12-person demonstration kitchen. And so we actually sit here and cook. Although I have done that at people's homes, people have flown me, all over the place to come to them and do it. And I do the same thing. And it's really a lot of times, especially younger people, they haven't really learned to cook. And so when I start talking about things like poaching salmon, their eyes kind of glaze over and they don't know what I'm talking about. So a lot of that is a lot more about actually cooking techniques, how we do things like with spinach. I mean, spinach is a powerhouse food. It's a great food, but there's ways to make spinach even better. So, you can saute spinach. It's still great. I mean, it's a great food. It's pretty hard to, use spinach and make it bad for you. But if you do a quick blanching of spinach, or at least just a quick boil without the lid on, like 30 seconds, you're actually going to get 80% better absorption of the most important minerals, like the zinc and the iron and the vitamins A, E, D, and K. So those, there's ways that we can make the food even healthier.
Yes.
And so they're going to absorb more nutrients. So they automatically lose weight because they don't need to eat as much. Their body gets all this, 80% more nutrition from the same food. And all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't need to eat as much because the body's like, well, hey, you got me enough. And then, so they do a quick blanch and then we put the right salad dressing on it and they're going to get even more absorption because all those leafy greens are fat. They have fat soluble vitamins, the A, E, D, and K, and those have to be in a presence of fat. So when somebody's eating like and this is not a bad food. I'm not, it's just that it's a level difference. It's the difference between, well, this is a good food and this is a great food. So, if they're eating like a raw salad, a spinach salad, that's a great food. There's nothing wrong with it. But then they put, a non-fat dressing on it and nothing that has any fat in it. And they've
Mm-hmm.
actually lowered the amount of nutrients they're going to get from it. You could take the exact same food, give it a 30-second blanch, a good olive oil type dressing, and throw all the same ingredients together. And they're going to eat a lot less food and be much more satisfied. And the body's going to run better because
Yeah, it is.
they're using real food in a different way. So it's all just a continuum. And when we do the 1-day thing, that's usually what we really focus in, because this is one person with one issue. A lot of times they have, chronic medical conditions that we're trying to resolve. But most people end up, the thing that's most popular is more of a 90-day at home, work through your own system type of program. And that's normally what people find and use for me.
Yeah, it's super important to know what to eat, like the quality, but also how to prepare the food. I see this, let's say, like you just said, with the absorption of kale or like spinach, like you just said, and same way with meat. The way you cook the meat is going to be different absorption into your body. Sorry, my English is not really good today. So yeah, preparation and the way you cook it's super important.
Yeah.
So one more question here. There is a lot of talk about detox and cleansing on the media nowadays. A lot of people talking, oh, detox this, detox that. How do you handle this question, and how do you work with people about who wants to go on a detox program?
Well, and I think I do a cleanse or a detox a couple times a year. I don't think it's necessary for people. So if it's something that they're like, not interested, there's still, you don't have to do that to be healthy. But a lot of times people find that they do want to just get stuff out of their system, or maybe they're having allergy issues or food that's bothering them. So a cleanse or a detoxification can be a great way to eliminate a lot of those highly allergen foods and then add them back in slowly to find out if they are having problems with, like you were talking about, gluten and things like this. In order to really know that, I mean, some of them you can do with a blood test if they're protein based, but if they're foods that don't have a protein base, a cleanse, a detox, elimination diet type of program is really the only way you're going to find out if you're having problems with some of those foods. So there's a lot of reasons to do a cleanse or detox. And so if people are interested, again, I come back to the same thing. It needs to be a whole foods cleanse. So the idea of doing 7 days of water and lemon juice, you're going to lose some weight, but you're not giving your body anything necessarily that's nourishing for it. So as soon as you go back to eating real food, you're going to gain that weight again. And in fact, you may even gain more because you've basically starved the body for a week. And, we can withstand that, but it's not necessarily healthy. Evolution has made it where we can accomplish not eating, but it's not what our body likes. So it'll fear that you're going to do it again. So it's going to save extra fat. I like to see people do a whole food cleansing type of detoxification, if that's what they want to do, where they're still eating foods, but they're really balancing those very delicately. So they're either blending or they're doing the smoothies. They're doing something to help pre-digest the food, fermenting it. They need a good balance between the amount that they eat that's raw, so that they get good roughage and get the stuff cleaned out of their system, and the amount that they do that is cooked, which gives a lot more nourishment to the body, but it, helps because it's partly digested at that point. Of course, and they have to have fermented foods because we need to get those good microbes back into the gut to help restore balance. And I highly recommend that they use bone broth at that point too, because that's really super nourishing. It can make them feel full. It has a lot of the basic nutrients in it. So it's very specific when they do something like that, to make sure that they're eating all the right foods that still remove all the major allergens, things like eggs and nuts and dairy, anything that could be a potential allergen needs to be removed, and then let the body just relax and do what it naturally does. Because our body's a great, cleanse and detoxification system. It's just we overload it. So it's nice sometimes to take a little break, give it some help. But it does need to be very safe, real foods, not a bunch of pills and juices and stuff like that. It needs to be stuff that's really going to cleanse the body, but nourish it all at the same time.
Yeah, bone broth. You just said, oh my God, I've been in Brazil and I've been to all the supermarkets and I cannot find bones from cows to make my bone broth. I'm so mad about that. Kellie,
there is a company that I think ships worldwide.
Oh, really?
Yeah, called U.S. Wellness Meats, I think is what it's called, or something like that. But I think they do ship worldwide, last I knew, and they do have organic grass-fed bones. The other thing is you can always go looking online. Weston A. Price Foundation usually has they have chapters all over the world, and whoever is your local chapter person, they will probably also be able to tell you where somebody is actually raising animals in a way that you could use the bone broth. So, but
I have to check it out.
Yeah, you do have to do a little research. It's unfortunately, bone broth used to be a traditional food that everybody would make and eat and enjoy. That's kind of gone on the wayside. So now you have to hunt a little harder to find the really good bones, but it's completely and totally worth it. So I highly recommend people do it.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. I miss my bone broth, and I've been here for over a month, so it's time to find some. Kellie, is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you think it's worth to share with our listeners today about really anything about health, losing weight?
I really encourage people just to especially if, we just gave a lot of information. I'm sure if they're listening regularly, they're getting a lot of great information, is to really just pick one thing. Don't try and change it all. Pick one thing, make that commitment to yourself and do that. And once you get that one down, then make the next piece. And if you do it that way, it won't be overwhelming and you'll have great success rather than just, trying to throw it all out, start all over, do everything new. It's very difficult to do that, and people don't see the same success. So if they only commit to one thing today, that's going to help tremendously. Yeah.
One step a day.
Yep.
That's the message. Where can people find you, and what's next for you now, Kellie?
I am at therightnutritionplan.com. It's RIGHT, rightnutritionplan.com. Of course, I'm on Facebook and Twitter and all the other ones. All is The Right Plan. Okay. And you can find me there. Next step for me is we're launching next week. Actually, we're launching a combination of a multiple number of my programs into a new system that people will be able to use for themselves. That is a 90-day program to help them really clean up their diet and get excited. And much like your podcast, I did 1.5 years as an international radio show host and got the opportunity to interview some amazing nutrition experts like Dr. Lauren Cordain from the Paleo founder and it doesn't matter. Anyway, all these wonderful people. And so we've put all those programs together with all of my information and really created a program that people can use in their own home and really find great success. It's taken us 1 year to test it and make sure it all works. And we're really excited to see it go worldwide next week, actually.
Oh, yeah, that sounds awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kellie, thank you so much for being here with us today. I super appreciate the time, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Brazilian Health Nut Show. Go to www.brazilianhealthnut.com for much more information about how to burn fat for the rest of your life. Hasta luego.